Welcome, Berend. I'm really excited to hear all about your journey running a vintage business in the Netherlands. I'm really excited to have you here. And to start, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course. So my name is Berend. I'm living in the Netherlands, in the southern part, close to the Belgian border. And I'm one of the co-owners of Swedish Vintage. We've started our company 3.5 years ago in the beginning of the Corona pandemic. And things really kicked off. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about who I am, what we do, and what keeps us, happy.
Yeah, that's great. And who do you mean by we?
We are a family-owned business. So I'm doing this together with my girlfriend, Irina, and her dad, called Remco.
That's exciting. I will hear all about it.
Welcome to Zachwyty. It's a Polish word that translates to delights. My name is Anna and I'd love you to join me as I chat with passionate vintage shop owners and antique dealers about their journeys, challenges, marketing strategies and more. All this from my home studio here in Gdańsk, Poland.
But before we dive into our conversation, I prepared a fun activity. I hope it will be a fun way also to ease into a conversation. And so I prepared a list of sentences for you to complete and would like you to keep the answers short and sweet. Are you ready to give it a go?
Go ahead.
A design piece that holds significant meaning to you is?
That would be the Jarpen chair and table designed by Niels Gammelgaard for IKEA. It has multiple reasons, but I'll keep it short. It was one of the first of the biggest orders that we've had internationally. Went to South Korea, by the way. And besides that, IKEA has made 2 remakes of the same chair in a couple of years ago. So it's still popular nowadays.
For those of you who are only listening, and note all these images of things, pieces, furniture that will be mentioned will be showed on screen, so it's worth watching. A next sentence for you to complete is: a design piece you've always dreamt of finding is?
That one is easy. That one's got to be the Impala chair or sofa designed by Gilles Lundgren. It's really the holy grail when it comes to vintage IKEA. It's really rare, it's really comfortable, and we need to have it someday.
The oldest object or piece of furniture in your collection is?
That would be right now the governor lamp designed by Berend. It's a Scandinavian designer. The lamp dates back from 1965, I believe. It's still being used right now. It's a remake nowadays again. A new edition is there. But the old one's much more sophisticated.
How do you mean it's much more sophisticated? If I may ask, like the materials used or the techniques, or it wasn't as mass production as it was with the remake?
Yeah,
Just
that's all true. The original edition is quite rare. There weren't many of them made. And the materials are much more luxurious back then than the remake of nowadays.
Your favorite designer is?
That would be Pierre Ponlin. It's a French designer which cooperated a lot with RT4, a Dutch furniture brand, still available nowadays. He has some great chairs. He has a tongue chair, the groovy chair. It's a really funky design of high quality, which can be a real statement piece in your room.
And your best ever find was?
Oh, yeah, it's hard to determine the best find. One that comes up is the Natura chair designed by Karin Meubring for IKEA. It has a real brutalist vibe to the chair, kind of comparable to the famous Spanish chair, and it's a real gem. It's really rare. We've managed to find one recently, and we're really proud of that.
Wow. Did I ask about the artist or the designer?
Ask me about the favorite designer, but not yet about my favorite artist.
Okay, because I do want to ask you about your favorite artist.
Well, I think some designers are artists, but
exactly. But I just wanted to, another one for you to mention.
Well, one comes up to mind. It's not especially IKEA, it's something else. It's Sotsas from Memphis Milano movement, Italy, at the end of the 1980s. He has some amazing handcrafted glass sculptures. A bowl, for example, in those bright Memphis colors. Really rare, really fragile and also really expensive.
Mm.
Nice to have one to look at it, but not great for use.
And any particular place that inspires your love for vintage design?
Yeah, of course, the thrift shops, but also those great big halls in France, filled with antique items, with brocante items, vintage items. It's a real modern treasure hunt. Just to
Mm.
go in, dig in there, get dirty, and find cool and unique items.
Yeah, as I already said, I'm pretty jealous that you live in this part of Europe, and for me, it's quite a distance from Gdańsk, which is north of Poland.
This,
So always getting jealous, but probably not as jealous as, I don't know, Americans, possibly.
yeah,
Berend, we're on the delights talk, so I have to talk about your delights with vintage, of course. There
okay.
will be plenty.
Yeah.
But can you share with us your earliest experiences with vintage?
Well, it's really hard to give a clear answer on that because we always loved, me and Irina, my girlfriend, loved design, loved interiors. We have decorated our previous house. We're right now in the middle of construction of our new house. So we are affected by it in years now, like more than 15 years. But we started Swedish Vintage also out of that kind of love. It was at the beginning of the Corona pandemic. We were forced to stay at home. Would really like to start a company with doing what we love. So we kind of rolled into that. IKEA, as you may know, has listed all their catalogs online, even
Yes.
earliest ones dates back from the 1950s. It's in black and white, so that's fun as well.
Yeah.
And we basically memorized some of those items, and we just went on the online marketplace here in the Netherlands.
Wait a second. You memorized some of them? Wow. I mean, there is quite a number of these items in the catalogs. I'm impressed.
Well, we don't know everything by heart, of course.
Yeah, but still.
Some designs for IKEA were really up there back in the days. Especially in the 1950s, everything, of course, IKEA Scandinavic, so it's a lot of wood, but it's high quality wood. So furniture is heavy and they will last for years, even now. But IKEA also, back in the 70s, for example, really made some great stuff when it comes to space age, for example. So you only need to memorize the stuff that you love, because we here at Swedish Vintage only offering items that we personally love. And those items will find a place in your head, so you'll remember them.
Yeah. So just to kind of have a picture of what it could have looked like, it was the COVID pandemic. You were sitting at home and going through the catalogs at that time. I understood.
Yeah.
And just, like, I imagine they took a lot of paying attention to details, to the lines, just to kind of, memorize and then have a better idea of what to have your senses focus on while browsing the internet, I imagine, at that time, right? Because you couldn't travel.
No, and a big advantage here in the Netherlands is that people will only use one, well, maybe two online marketplaces to sell their items. So it really narrows it down. And if you spend a lot of time online browsing through those items, you will find those gems.
Right.
And we weren't certain, of course, if it would work or not. Because, it's nice to try something, but it's also nice, of course, to make a little bit of profit to continue.
Yeah, of
So
course.
we started with basically spending a couple of hundreds of euros, picking up a couple of items. We've built a website around it, created an Instagram channel, and really did our investigation of the items, when they were created, who made them, for example, to give the entire image to the client. And then it really took off. We got messages from people in South Korea, Australia, United States. So we thought, we are onto something.
Yeah, but I I wonder, were you like sure from the start that this is like that you would like to offer these pieces of furniture to the people from abroad or from the Netherlands? Did you have something like that in mind?
No, no, we didn't think anything of it.
Aha.
We choose our items by heart. It's a gut feeling. It's something that we like, otherwise we wouldn't buy it. And we are not sure if we have the customer base to sell it to. But then again, it's not like we are offering 100 chairs of the same chair. We're only offering one or two or four. So one buyer is enough. And that one buyer, amazingly, will continue finding us.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's we'll definitely get back to this. But also what I wanted to say is that, just going quickly even to your website, I can, see that your collection showcases this pattern of very conscious curation,
Yeah,
in my opinion. And there are playful shapes, right? Bold colors, unconventional forms, good materials. It is like pretty evident that there was this deliberate process at work here. So, do you have any background in design?
no, we do not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my girlfriend has a interior education,
Mm-hmm.
but we do really things by heart. And
Mm-hmm.
when you are long enough in the business, you will recognize quality. So you
Yeah.
can recognize the materials, how it's made, the joints, for example. So it's quite easy to see what will last for more like decades and what is not even enough to go through the trouble to buying it. So we find items that we like, are of high quality, but then again, you must remember they are vintage items.
Mm.
So most of the times they are not 100% perfect, but they do have a lot of history. But of course, as well, we don't sell junk. So
Yeah.
yeah, the big difference between us and probably other vintage dealers is that we describe everything honestly. We investigate our items. We even include a picture of the original IKEA catalog when we're talking about IKEA items.
Yeah. Do you do this every time?
Uh,
Is it achievable? I mean, again, I'm just thinking there is this abundance of catalogs. So I'm really impressed with all the research you're doing.
yeah, it's not feasible to do it for every IKEA object we are selling.
Yeah.
Got enough time on our hands, then we'll investigate it enough. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But please note, besides Swedish Vintage, which started out as a hobby, we also have other full-time jobs. So
Exactly. I was going to ask because in our previous conversation off the record, you said that you work full time,
yeah,
and yeah. But also, sorry if I shouldn't bring this up, then we can edit this. But you mentioned that this is actually what this kind of financial stability is what could set you apart in this business because you can take riskier, quicker decisions to invest like a good amount of money in sort of a piece of furniture really quickly. Is that correct? Can I say it?
yeah, like that. Yeah, it all comes down, of course, to investment versus risks, of course. And if you really need to get your money out of it every month to pay your bills, then you probably need to make other choices as well. And we have the luxury that we're not in that position. So we can buy items with the certainty or maybe the uncertainty that we've got a buyer lined up for it.
Yeah.
We can really stick to what we believe in, what we find cool, and we buy those items without the knowledge if it will sell or not.
Exactly. And also, I would say that there is another luxury that you have. This is Irina's father, yeah, Remco, who does the restoration and all the
Yeah,
needed work. So you have someone whom you can trust with all the refurbishing restoration works. Is that correct? Can you tell us a little bit more about this family dynamic in your business?
yeah, he's a real handyman. He has an
Mm.
enormous workshop with all the tools you could possibly need. And he has quite a lot of knowledge as well, which helps, of course. So if we buy, for example, a faulty lamp, he can rewire them. If we buy a leather chair which has really dried out, he knows how to fix that. He can even stitch leather. He can make new metal items, for example, screws, bolts, whatsoever, in order to make an item. And he loves it to do. And he's also the one who is packaging all our items that go. And that can be as simple as a piece of bubble wrap and cardboard, but it can also contain a pallet where we need to make a wood construction, a wood crate around it.
Exactly. I was gonna say that if you ship to South Korea, yeah, you said that you have clients there.
Yeah.
What other countries, if you're happy to share, do you ship your items to?
Oh, yeah, I can share. That's basically everywhere where somebody would like to receive our item. So on North America, South America, all over Europe. We've just sent out a cool item to Estonia, for example. Also Australia, New Zealand, China, South Korea. Yeah, basically everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it stressful with the first shipment abroad, overseas?
Well, sometimes it still kind of is, because some items are more fragile than others, of course. But it's also a lot of paperwork, a lot of arrangements, which can.
Right.
Well, the hardest country so far is the US.
Uh-huh.
Have many regulations, and even when it comes to the type of wood that you choose to create your crate.
All right.
Yeah, so a lot of rules, and the first time is very challenging, the second time as well, but after that, yeah, you know what to do.
Speaking of wood, wood furniture is made of wood. You mentioned on your website that you're on a mission of rescuing furniture from being discarded.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty curious whether it was your love for good design or your passion for sustainability. I mean, which came first to you?
Ooh, it's a bit of both, I guess. Because while decorating our house, visiting a modern store where they sell furniture, yeah, it doesn't really cut it for us anymore. Your budget is, of course, limitless. You can find still great stuff, but average saying that the older stuff has more quality, is more out there. It can be funky, it can be even amazing, great colors. So yeah, but the sustainability aspect is also really huge, of course.
Yeah.
Because some items are really damaged. For example, a really great wooden table with a lot of water stains in it. Well, we know how to remove those. So we can buy it, even use it ourselves, and then we can restore it, and somebody will be really happy to add that to their collection. If you have a customer who is really happy, he will send you a photo of their home, of their room where they place your item in. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling. And also, like to be in this business and have the sense that you really contribute to the circulation of things in the world. It is a fulfillment in itself. Are there any other things that drive you in this business, in this industry?
Well, we are trying to make a difference, really a difference in the items that we are offering. For example, we try to buy stuff that's really unique. It can be a bit bold, a bit daring, but that's really what we like. And it's probably not for everybody, but that's okay, because everybody's different, of course.
Yeah.
That's really what is driving us.
I imagine it's because your items are often so playful that it's also, and also they are not like so obvious that you have to kind of have some sort of, I don't know, even skill to read them sometimes, right? So it sparks creativity. Is that also something that keeps you going? That this treasure hunt is really a creative process in itself.
Yes, it is, and the thrill is always very big when you find. And it can be even a really cheap item, a really small item, or a big item. It doesn't really matter. When you see it, you just see it. And the fun thing is, we are running this company with 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
There maybe has been one item, but on average, there isn't a single item that everybody agrees or finds it beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with Remco,
Mm-hmm.
we buy a great rare chair with a relatively high buying price. He
Mm-hmm.
always is declaring us madman. Why did you buy this? We will
Yeah,
just watch it. We'll find somebody who will treasure this chair, and then they will buy it. And can
exactly.
go in a couple of days or in a couple of months. Don't stress out. The right buyer will get there.
Yeah, but speaking of madness, just this word, like yeah, help me to lead us to my question, because vintage IKEA is the business is big right
Yeah,
now, right? We can I think easily say that, and the prices at European auctions are pretty crazy sometimes.
yeah,
So let me just see my note. There was something that it was, we're talking about 92 times what it originally could have been sold for.
yeah.
So prices can get as high as this. And what's your take? What's your take on that? Like, how do you feel about that? Obviously, good for your business, but in general terms.
Well, it's hard to say because it's really becoming more trendy every day.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, some items are way more valuable than others. But selling it to the highest bidder isn't always the best thing to do. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
some items are really being sold for crazy prices. But for example, a couple of months ago, we were contacted by a daughter of a man whose house burned down.
Mm-hmm.
We were selling just a minor small table lamp that he had, and she wanted to buy it again from us to give it to him as a birthday present.
Wow.
We found that so special that we
Yeah.
a big discount in order to fulfill that dream.
Yeah, that's
So,
beautiful. And sad story, but wow. Mm.
sorry, yes, but not everything can be bought with money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, but then again, we also had some great cooperation with bigger companies. We've did
Mm-hmm.
with IKEA themselves as well.
Uh-huh.
They used to have and still have those green buyback Fridays in comparison to those Black Friday deals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And IKEA has bought several items from us,
Okay.
bring back to their stores in Denmark and Sweden. And people could buy lottery tickets. And if they won the lottery, then they could buy that item from IKEA for the price that it was back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Buy really cheap, cool
Yeah.
design IKEA.
Yeah. Whoa. I've never heard of this. I've been to the IKEA, what was it called? Oh, in Eskilstuna, they have this recycling shopping center
Yeah,
where every store. Have you been there? Maybe
no, I haven't been.
no. So every store there is it sells only vintage secondhand, and one of the stores there is for vintage IKEA,
Yeah,
for example. What I wanted to ask you, is it true that it is mostly the IKEA pieces from the 70s that are the hottest right now?
yes, the 70s and 80s.
70s.
Those periods were really colorful and are not only that brown, typical Scandinavian furniture,
Hmm.
but it has some crazy designs. Yeah. So the 70s and the 80s are the most sought after, I believe. And even back in the day, even in the 1960s, IKEA cooperated with local designers in Scandinavia in order to create products, and they're still doing that nowadays. So that's pretty cool. But back in the 50s and 60s, the furniture was really dark and heavy, and
Hmm.
I still love it. And you rarely find those pieces anymore.
Yeah.
They are more valuable than the pieces in the 1970s and 80s, just
Yeah.
because of the rarity of it.
Do you think that 90s and 2000 will, get on the scene here, or will they get popular?
Yeah, yeah. Also, in the 90s and the zeros, there were items that are popular. Are, for example, the Sinnerlich product line. It's in the zeros, and they were made of cork, which is a pretty trendy material nowadays.
Yeah.
They created stools and a table, and they are pretty sought after. We also sell them occasionally. And in the 90s, yeah, there are also quite a couple of good IKEA items that are really popular right now. So every decade has its items.
Yeah. And I wonder, this brings me to another question, because I've had this conversation with one of my guests here on the show that, because Vintage IKEA is gaining such an attention, that she actually wondered whether it would be maybe one way to invest her money in current IKEA items that could, trend in the future. Do you do that yourself? Do you analyze what could be a good investment nowadays, or not? That's not what you do.
That's not what I do, and
Yeah.
I have something against that because items should be available for everybody. And I'm against a company or somebody who sees an opportunity to buy up the entire stock of an item.
All right. No, I think it was more of a personal. She didn't mean like a company, She said it from her or like personal perspective,
Well,
that for her own kind of
yeah,
investment.
I do believe, to answer you truthfully, that there are items that IKEA is currently offering that will be of a great investment years later. Yeah.
Since you are, selling your items worldwide, I'm pretty curious, whether you see, whether you can observe any patterns of what people desire, different pieces, and whether they value also them differently in different parts of the world.
Yes, there are trends developing, but we are not really looking at those trends because we like to stick with our own vision, just to keep buying stuff that we think somebody would like. Some of them are indeed a bit more trendy than others, but also some items that we've sold a couple of years ago that are so hot right now that we can't buy them again because everybody is knowing what they are and what they are worth. So we cut them for a low enough amount to make sense, basically.
How do you ensure, that something is authentic?
Well, if you look at the Vintage IKEA, there aren't any replicas. Find something that looks like the real deal. You can, of course, look it up in the IKEA catalog again. Even the old items sometimes still do have the IKEA sticker on it. And if somebody didn't make any alterations to the item, you can be pretty sure that it's legit.
What about the other vintage gems that you sell? Because it's not only Vintage IKEA, as we have already stressed here. So
No, IKEA is still our core business, of course, but our love goes further than just IKEA.
Yeah.
Well, there are a couple of brands that has really a lot of replicas. I've talked about the Pierre Paulin designs, the Tong chair, for example. It's being reproduced right now as we speak. The same goes for the RT4 Groovy chair, the M chair. You can even find those, I believe, on AliExpress right now.
All right.
Also, some French/Italian design, like some Casina chairs, are being reproduced. Even a German brand like Walter Knoll is being reproduced. So the things that really a lot of people are liking, it can be tricky.
Yeah. What about the fact that something is replicated? Does it affect the price of the vintage item, or I mean, like negatively, or does it make it even more valuable since it is the original piece?
Well, I wouldn't say it will increase the value, but the potential buyer is more aware, of course, that it can be possibly a replica. So in order to buy it something like we do, to buy and sell this furniture, you really need to make sure it's authenticated by
Yeah.
document, a receipt, for example, or a mark on the item. But if it's being really replicated on a big scale, it's a big no for us, and we'll just not buy it.
Yeah. But do you, I mean, I imagine most of the work you can do yourself. You can ask even the seller for the receipt. You can dig into all the catalogs, documents, do your research online. But do you ever use the help of other resellers? This is what I always ask my, Polish guests here, whether they feel that there is some sort of a network of support, and if there is anyone they can reach out to and ask them,
Yeah.
help me out on this one. Not sure.
Well, it's kind of a small world. So some dealers already know each other. We are in contact with those through, for example, the Instagram chat.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, sometimes you do ask and share pictures just to check what somebody else's opinion is about it, about the authenticity, or not, of course. So
Yeah. But are these people from the Netherlands, or are they from the other countries?
could be both.
Could be both.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking is because I'm really curious about the vintage industry in the Netherlands. I get a sense it is thriving. It's been always, antiques and such. But so that's kind of my only idea of what it could be these days. But I wonder whether it is in a way supportive of each other or more competitive. How is it crowded? Is it overcrowded? Just tell me more about it.
I would say it's overcrowded.
Uh-huh.
And the result of that is that some dealers are pretty nice to each other, but others are really starting to get horrible.
All right.
So that's a pity. But then again, competition isn't really a bad thing because it pushes you, of course, to diversify, to be the better you, to better investigate the item, or to renovate it better, or make your website better. So it pushes you also to new limits.
Yeah.
But then again, I would say it's overcrowded. But if you have a good idea of what you are trying to achieve, and you're going to make a plan and stick to it, you probably will achieve it to have a running company.
Mm-hmm. But are there many, local vintage shops that you can visit, or the majority of them are online businesses?
I would say it's 50-50. Every bigger city here in the Netherlands probably has a couple of vintage dealers who have a place where you can go buy furniture.
Mm-hmm.
But also on the other side, almost half of it goes just online.
Right.
Yeah.
And also there is a reason why I'm asking this, because, sometimes, not always, obviously, but it happens that, those who run boutiques in towns and cities, and they've had these boutiques for years.
Yeah.
These are in Poland sometimes in kind of my mind, and this is definitely not a rule, but these are owned by maybe older people, and then there is this generational gap between those younger vintage resellers, and these two groups may not be so keen on, or maybe the group of the people with a bigger or longer experience, they are not so keen on sharing their expertise and knowledge and such. How do you feel about this? How does it work in the Netherlands?
Well, both options can work, but we chose to not have a store. Why we didn't go there is because we, of course, have another job as well.
Yeah.
And property is really expensive here in the Netherlands. So rent out a big store because, if you're selling tables, sofas, chairs, you need quite a lot of space in order to have a lot of items on stock. And that pressure is just not for us.
Yeah.
So that's why we chose to have it online. And it always gives us a bit more freedom than you are here locally. Then again, I can see it can also work locally because what you said is true. Older generation people just visit stores physically instead of browsing online.
Yeah.
So both worlds can exist. But if somebody knocks on our door asking for tips and tricks, we will of course give it to them. We are like an open book. We don't
Mm.
competition is a bad thing.
Yeah. Well, even the fact that you're here sharing your insights behind the scenes and you're so open about sharing your experience, yeah, is a proof of that you are.
Yeah.
So that's I appreciate that. But speaking of, not having a store, having an online store, in general terms, what are your marketing strategies? I know that you're on Instagram, you have a website. Do you utilize any other platforms?
There are a couple of other platforms here in the Netherlands. You have a platform called Woppa, for example. And Woppa is like an online marketplace, but that's only with authenticated designers
All right.
offering. So every listing is getting checked and curated if it can be listed on Woppa. And we don't see any point in expanding our marketing activities or anything because,
Yeah.
like I've said, we are offering unique items, not in bulk. And if you list them properly, you name the artist or the designer, the fabric, the manufacturer, etc., you will always find somebody who's interested in that item.
Yeah.
It can take a day, it can take a year, but somebody will come knocking on your door. If
Mm.
honest, if you have good pictures, good information. If you, for example, visit our website, it will be hard to find an item with less than 10, 15, 20 pictures of it. Because
Yeah, that I paid attention to this. I was really impressed with the number of pictures. Speaking of which, I was thinking, so you obviously do show all the signs of wear and tear. Like you pay attention to doing this. But I wonder if it nevertheless happens that customers ask for more pictures, and how do you respond to such requests?
yeah, that can happen. And that's fine, of course, because most of the items aren't exactly like buying a loaf at the bakery.
Yeah.
It can be quite expensive. So if somebody is requesting more pictures, then yeah, that's fine. It can take a couple of days, of course, because we have a big storage where the items are. And we're always not in the position to go to the storage the same day, take it out, make pictures,
Yeah.
etc. So it can take a day or two, but we're being open and honest about that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing if anybody is requiring more info whatsoever.
And also, what I noticed was that you offer this option for customers to pay on pickup. So I have only recently learned that it significantly increases trust in the seller, even though some customers may not choose this payment option eventually.
Yeah.
Apparently, it builds this trust, and so I wonder, what's your take on that one?
Yeah, well, we want to provide a clear picture, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Would like to offer as much payment methods as we can. Some are more beneficial than others. For example, PayPal is quite expensive to offer because they'll take a certain pretty high percentage, if you ask me,
Yeah.
buying price.
Did you say PayPal or?
Yeah, PayPal. Yeah.
Mhm.
And offering that pick up locally option is really great because you get to know the guy or the woman who will pick it up. You will feel his enthusiasm, which is quite great.
Yeah.
And it also really builds up your brand.
Yeah, totally. What else do you do to build up this trust with your customer and ensure, this smooth shopping experience?
Well, that's the benefit of running this company with 3 people.
Uh-huh.
It has their own speciality. So, for example, I'm pretty good at the IT side of the story, so running the website, the taxes,
Mm.
stuff like that. Irina, my girlfriend, is really great at taking good pictures of those items.
Yeah.
And Remco
The
is
pictures you have are really good. Yeah.
yes. So combined, it's a really great thing to do. We can respond quite quickly on Instagram, on emails. I can arrange transport in any way possible, however the customer would like to receive it. We always don't calculate margin on. We just love to ship items to customers, and we will keep them up to date. So we always have a tracking website where the customer can track the status of the shipment. And we can always, of course, claim damage if anything happens. Everything is insured. And we'll just communicate from A till Z to the customer. And they're pretty much satisfied.
Yeah, but here I have a question, because I've been actually on your, numerous times. I went to your website, but I added certain item. I don't remember what it was. I just wanted, to have this kind of shopping experience in your shop. And then it said that there is, the shipping will be calculated after I contact you. So I wonder, then you just give this quote, right? And I added somehow to the quote that I transfer the money. I just wonder, from the technical issue, how do you solve this?
Well, it's always a manual job because the dimensions of each item is different. The weight
Exactly.
well, and there isn't a option to automate it. And I wouldn't want that either, because some people are requesting, for example, a white glove delivery. I'm not sure if you've heard of that.
No, please tell me more about it.
A white glove delivery is really a fancy delivery. So people will deliver the item to your house. They will unpack it for you. They will place it in the position you would like to have it. Make sure to clean it as well and to take the trash with them.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's something some people request, and we can offer that. So everything basically is tailor-made. Every shipment can be different. So there is no way to automate that process. So if somebody's interested in an item, they can send us a message. Can be through anything, through email, through Instagram chat, whatsoever. We tend to respond within a couple of hours. It could be a couple of minutes if it's during daytime, for example. But then again, if somebody's sending us in the US a message and it's in the middle of the night, it can take a couple of hours.
Yeah. I'm asking, because shipping of delicate vintage items is problematic. So I just really wanted to hear about your experiences. I've never heard this term, white gloves delivery. But is it even possible abroad, or is it just in the Netherlands you can do it?
Everything is possible.
Yeah, I imagine everything.
If you have a budget,
it's just a matter of finding the right company. So,
for example, we have sent a quite big chair and ottoman to the US. And during transit, they've asked us to get a quote for a white glove delivery. And we'll just contact with our shipping agent to ask what the options are. But it's really expensive, to be honest.
Yeah.
To unpack a chair, for example, and put it into your house and take away the trash, they would charge you only for that about $700 or $800. It's really costly.
Yeah, but I imagine there is still like a customer base for these sort of services, because the products you offer, are so rare. These are really the gems. So I imagine these are also the designers maybe who look through your catalog for their clients.
Yeah.
Do you have a sense of who your customers are? Are they just private vintage enthusiasts, or also maybe some hotels, boutique hotels and such?
Yeah, basically everything. We have companies who are renting out properties.
All right. Yeah.
To have a statement piece in their home. It could be also, for example, a bed and breakfast buying it for themselves. It could be a interior designer who is working with a famous famous guy, for example. But it could also be just a normal type consumer. Yeah, it can be pretty much everything.
Yeah, I imagine. I think it was even today I was reading this article on Guardian about this chair that I don't remember the name of. It was an iconic vintage IKEA chair.
Yeah.
But this is exactly what they said, that this will look perfect in a New York apartment, a rental property, just everything you mentioned basically. And that's, I think, the truth about the vintage design, the IKEA design and Swedish design and all the other things that, among others, you offer. So yeah, that's the exciting thing. But do you ever get customers who come back to you? Do you build relationships with any of them?
Yeah, sometimes, but it's really up to them. We communicate from A to Z with them with regards to their purchase. And some of those are indeed returning customers. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always hard to determine because you are offering a broad variety of items and not a single one is the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, if it happens, it's quite cool, and we tend also to add a little present to the shipment or offer them a bit of more discount as a returning customer. But yeah, that happens. Yeah.
Speaking of this, any other most rewarding experiences you've had in this journey of running vintage business? I mean, returning customers is probably one of this.
Yeah. Well, the example that I've told earlier about that lamp being sent to a guy whose house burned down, one of the great examples, but also meeting other vintage enthusiasts is quite cool. There is a store here close by in Den Bosch. The city is called. It's called Mr. Design, offering a high quality furniture. And they were in the middle of launching a new Werner Planton chair. And he had a couple of older chairs from his collection. And we cooperated. So we brought those chairs to that store so they could build an entire entourage about launching that new chair. And those kind of things are really great to do, just to share the same passion about items.
We're nearly wrapping up, but I need to ask you about the major challenges of running vintage business.
Well, so yeah, there are a couple of major challenges, especially when you are running a business with the need of making profit, of course. Because you never know which item will sell quickly. And some items, well, a often misconception people have is that for us as a vintage company, the stuff we find is that they think we find it for practically nothing. Our buying price can be relatively high. Sometimes even we would just buy the item because we think it would look nice in our store. And if it sells, it's of course great, but it also can happen. For example, you buy a chair for €500 and you are selling it for €600. So the margin is pretty low, but you just like the looks of it. And you're of course building a brand. So that's something to consider. And so my advice would be to just create a plan, create a vision, know what you like, and stick to it. Don't get stressed out if something is not selling rapidly. Don't give major discounts on your items, because that will only get distrusted within the community. And just stick to it. Everything will be fine.
We are on the videocast that is titled Delights. In Polish, it is zachwyty. So I can't let you go without asking my signature question. And this is, which of the vintage designs, we've talked about it a little bit before, but still, I'm sure there are more. Which of the vintage designs delights you the most?
It probably are those items that I think we made popular. We took a couple of items within those IKEA catalogs that we believed in, and I've talked about them briefly before. We made them so popular nowadays that we even can't get our hands on again. Nobody knew them a couple of years ago, and we put them into the market with the real designers, the real name of the items, because every item has a name made by IKEA.
Yeah.
And those items really kicked off. They even showed up in magazines. It's crazy. For example, it's those marked crates. It's MERD. You can
Hmm.
look them up. They
Yeah,
have
well.
a Memphis color, bright yellow, red.
Hmm.
I believe they originally were meant for children or keeping in your vinyl records.
Hmm.
But those are really trendy right now. It's still a great look. The matter of fact is we've tried to purchase a couple of them earlier this morning as well.
Uh-huh.
And we might succeed. I'm not sure yet. But those items are really cool to have. And they're not expensive. They are not like hundreds of euros. We're going to sell them properly if things will work out for 30, 40, 50 euros. But we just love those items. Really colorful.
Yeah. But speaking of you loved items, are you sometimes ready to travel farther away than the Netherlands to purchase them?
Definitely. Yeah. I've been to the northern of France a couple of months ago, a bit more a year ago, to buy a couple of chairs.
Mm.
That were IKEA chairs designed by Verne Panton, called Feel
Hmm.
Bear. Really great, really modern day IKEA treasure, I believe. They were launched in 93, 94, and only 3 to 4,000 of those chairs were made. So they're quite rare. And we found them on Facebook Marketplace, I believe.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it was a 5-hour drive. So 5 hours to there and 5 hours back. So the entire day was spent in the car.
Yeah,
Yeah, and those things tend to happen.
of
If you find
course.
a good gem, then you need to go for it.
Yeah.
And that can happen that you are driving in the middle of the night or very early
Mm.
in the morning. Those things can happen.
Definitely. I mean, I know this level of passion and commitment
Yeah.
and long journeys. Even though I'm not, selling, I do rentals, but still, a lot of things that I have curated for my home are
Yeah.
definitely the things that are vintage.
I could tell you a little bit more about one more thing
Yeah.
that still excites us. Last year during the summer, we've received a email from a interior designer, a photo shoot designer from H&M, and that they wanted to buy a couple of chairs for a couple of photo shoots.
Mm-hmm.
And those things are still pretty exciting to
Yeah.
have major brands contacting you in either renting or buying items for decorating their photo shoot, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask if you also offer rentals, actually.
Well, we don't talk about it on our website, mostly because 90% more or less goes internationally. But yes, if somebody wants to rent out a chair or whatever item, everything can be discussed. Yeah.
So it's been a big pleasure talking to you today. And before we wrap up, could you remind us where we can find you, how the potential customers can reach you, how they can explore your shop further?
So you can find our website. It's called Swedish Vintage. The URL is swedishvintage.com. Easy to find, of course. The same goes on Instagram. And you can always contact us through the chat, through email, by phone, whatever means you feel necessary.
Right. So once again, thank you so much for being so generous. And it's been a pleasure learning from you. And yeah, take care.
It was very nice talking to you. I love to talk about our company, as you might have noticed. There's
Yeah,
so
of
much
course.
more to talk about, but I think
Yeah, there is always more.
yeah.